Hey guys, welcome back to Alpha Project. I am one of your hosts, Pernell Ramel. We've got Stephen Vitter on the left and Devin Jones on my right. Last week we left off with accountability. This week we are getting into how to be accountable for yourself in times of change and how to actually enact that within your life. Where do you want to start?
Mr. And be the change. Be the change. I think that we got to start with you need to just be the change. And if you are ready to see change, if you don't like the way that you're being, if you don't like the way that your world is, if you don't like the circle in, if you don't like something, fucking change it. Because it's not just going to change if you sit down and you go to bed and you cry about how you're pissed off about shit's not changing. It's going to change when you start changing. I'm going to say this from the I point of view. My life changes when I change.
I like it. Devin, I'm going to ask you something very specific because I know you know the answer. Tell me the definition of crazy.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right. That's how you do not change, right? If you keep doing the same thing and you don't make that 10-degree shift like we always talk about, or that 1-degree shift, and over time, there's no change, right? So to make that shift, you actually have to start with yourself, right? So what are the processes that you use yourself if you recognize something? First of all, how do you recognize something needs to be changed? And then how do you go about affecting that change?
So I have this motto when it comes to just about everything. I hate the idea of good and bad, good versus evil, right and wrong, because there's no frame of reference if you just come from the perspective of what is right and what is wrong. I'm going to use this as an example. To me, what is right is saving millions of lives with some miraculous technology that saves millions of lives.
Med beds.
To me.
Med beds 2021, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Med beds.
Right?
Your monologues are getting shittier and shittier.
No.
Let me tell you.
Now here's where it gets. Here's where it takes.
We have one monologue.
Here's where it takes the hard right. Somebody else's definition of right is to use that exact same technology to murder millions of people. And yes, I'm referencing Hitler and the Holocaust and killing millions of people needlessly for an agenda. Now to him, his agenda was right. Mm-hmm. So his frame of reference was right. My frame of reference is also right. So I've changed, in the nature of this podcast, I've changed my perspective on right and wrong, good versus evil, black and white. What instead I use as a language, because language is super fucking powerful, what I've used instead as a replacement for that is, does it serve? Mm-hmm. So how to recognize whether or not you need to adapt, or you need to change, or you need to do something better is it serving me? Is it serving the greater community? Is it serving the people around me? Is it going to affect and create a ripple that is inevitably going to affect people in whatever way I deem to be positive or negative?
See, we've actually touched on that the past 5 episodes. We talked about integrity and having accountability and knowing, first of all, what the right frame of reference is and how you should be moving forward in life, right? Mm-hmm. I guess now we're getting to that, how to change into that person, right? So, Steve, I'm going to put it to you. How do you go about, I know you do your journaling and things like that, and you recognize what you deem to be incorrect things happening in your life. So how do you go from recognizing it to affecting that change?
Literally, the first thing is recognizing it, and for me, it's a perfect time to talk about this with the new year, right? Mm-hmm. And I, like I'm sure everybody else does, I'm sure you guys do, have a list of things where I'm like, this is what I'm going to accomplish, right? For me, change starts the second I get, pissed off, frustrated, just fed up with something going on, right? Okay, I'm fed up with this part of my life, right? I'm fed up with sleeping till 9 o'clock maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe I'm fed up with being single, or I'm fed up with where I'm at in my career. I'm fed up with, having debt, or whatever that looks like. Once I hit that point of being fed up with something, that's when, okay, that's life. That's the universe's way of saying, pay attention to this, right? Yeah, Devin, you're right. It's not right, wrong, good, bad, black or white. However, it just is. So if you're fed up with it, change it. So that's where it starts. Change happens for me. I do things really quickly. I know a lot of people who like to plan and think things through. I like to just jump off a cliff and make radical change right away.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes, I go 2 weeks, I'm like, fuck, this is worse than what I was doing. This is worse than what I was doing before.
Yeah. And that happens, right?
I would rather know after 2 weeks than after, 2 months or 2 years.
Right. So I'm going to throw a third strategy in there, actually, because you know, a lot of people, like you say, they'll know how to recognize it and they'll know how to affect the change. But sometimes for me, it's basically the change happens when I make the decision to change, right? I know that if I'm doing something incorrect that I feel is incorrect or isn't conducive to my lifestyle, I know I have to change it. So I say, okay, I'm going to make this change, right? I don't say, like, if I'm going to go on a diet, I'll say I'm not going on a diet. I say I'm changing the way I'm eating, right? There's huge benefits to using words to your advantage, right? So if you say you're on a diet, you can say, oh, I can get a cheat day. And then that cheat day turns into a cheat week or a cheat month and you're back in that slippery slope. If you say I'm changing my diet, right? Then you've just changed your diet.
You're changing your input.
Yes, so you change what's coming in so you can affect what's coming out.
And as soon as you go into I'm going on a diet, that you go into restrictions. You go into, oh, I'm unable to do this. And you know, I mean, Parnell, if I told you like you can't fucking sit in that chair today.
First of all, fuck you.
Right. I mean, I know everybody has that same response, right? If you get told you're unable to do something, it's like, no, okay, dude, I'm going to do this, right?
Yeah.
So if I say I'm going on a diet, right, then in my head, I'm thinking of all the things that I'm unable to eat or drink
You're
or
holding yourself
go
back from
out
doing
and
something,
I'm now restricting, right? Versus, you know what you said exactly, I'm changing. Or, you know, let's use the example of paying off debt, right? Or losing weight, right? Instead of saying I need to lose this, right? Your negative self-talk at that point. You say I'm going to relieve myself of, or I'm choosing to abandon, or I'm choosing to leave behind 10 pounds or whatever it is, right?
And be very specific when you do it. When you want to
Absolutely.
change, you have to be very specific. There's a lot of people that put generalities out there. I want to lose 100 pounds. Okay, well, you want to lose 100 pounds of muscle, you want to lose 100 pounds of fat, right? Be very specific. Say you want to lose 80 pounds of fat and gain 20 pounds of muscle,
For sure.
right? When you don't get specific with your goals and with your changes that you're going through, there's nothing to fall back on. There's nothing holding you accountable to yourself, right? Except what you said to yourself. Now, if you have these generalizations, then those accountabilities, they dwindle over time, right? Your peer pressure, your friends, your family, your work situation, whatever it is, right? Those will fall to the back of your mind. That won't be at the forefront anymore. So you're not actually thinking about the change anymore. You're just slipping back to where you were before. So that's one of the things you have to realize is when you get super specific, you say, okay, and you write it down, you journal it, whatever you got to do to remember it, and try to keep it at the forefront. Because once it's at the forefront, like you said, I'm not going to have a cheat day. I'm not going to go eat a whole pan of lasagna. I'm going to go and have a salad, or I'm going to have chicken breast and broccoli, whatever it is, right? It literally changes your attitude toward food.
For sure.
If we're talking about dieting.
I would 100% agree with you. I would also 100% crush a whole pan of lasagna right now.
Absolutely.
That sounds amazing. That sounds delicious.
Great.
Right? And you're so right, because when you make a change, right, it is changing the way that I am doing things, right? And it might be radical, right? And I know that I make radical change, and oftentimes I will make a radical shift and then dial it back, because you make a radical change and then I realize, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah, you took on too much, right?
Right.
I mean, there's going to be pain.
It's going to come over time. And this, again, it's the 1% shifts over a long period of time. Be consistent with it. And now instead of, going out for wings 3 or 4 days a week, or now you're going out, okay, we're going out for wings once a week. And you can enjoy that time. You don't need to completely eliminate or change or make radical shifts. If that works for you, great. However, when you're doing it repeatedly and consistently, then, 3 months from now, you'll be down a bunch of, bad weight.
Right.
And you'll realize, it's my lifestyle that has changed.
Right.
Right. Now, okay, what else goes on to that and what else compounds into that? I guarantee if you're not going out to the bar 4 nights a week, you're doing something else with your time, right? So now you have an opportunity, maybe you read a book in those 3 months.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe you went to the gym. Right? Maybe you hooked up with a new person and you've developed a new relationship, right? Maybe you were able to learn Forex or crypto trading, something.
You know
like
what?
That, right?
I actually implemented. I do like little mantras. It's another Anthony Robbins thing. Again, we're gonna mention it on every single episode, right? Tony Robbins says,
the truth.
Nothing. When I was losing weight, I had this mantra: nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Right? And I would literally have to repeat that to myself for about half an hour before I would get the energy up to run. Right. But then when I'm running, I'd have a smile on my face when I'm running. Right. It's just one of those things where you change your mindset, you change where you're going. And I want Devin to speak to this because tell me about when you make a change, there's going to be some pain, regardless of what it is. Right. It could be very minor, it could be very major. How do you go about getting past a change to get to the point of positivity to actually make that change last?
I think Steve touched on this very briefly. making that, jumping off the cliff might not be for everybody. I relate to that very much. I've walked away from entire social circles in one conversation and never spoke to those people ever again. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do. It's just a thing that needed to be done. And in the aftermath of that, the conversations that I had to have with myself and the other people that remained after something like that, there's a lot of hurdles to overcome when you make a radical change and do something like that. I saw a status that this chick posted on my Facebook, and it went something along the lines of, I'm just kind of like cliff notes here. Why do all guys date you for 3 weeks and they're super awesome, and then after 3 weeks there's like an expiration date and all of a sudden they're fuckboys?
Because she's boring.
No. I'm gonna take the answer for this. It was crazy because at the time I was just feeling like, oh, I could totally play on this and it would be funny, but also informative at the same time. And my response to that in the comments was, well, because when a guy first meets you, he really wants to be that guy that he's pretending to be, but he hasn't made any significant changes in his life to be that guy. So he gets exhausted after the 3 weeks and the real version of himself comes out because he hasn't addressed his childhood traumas and the bullshit and baggage and whatever else he's carrying with him. And so he just melts and there's nothing left except for what was there to begin with.
Melting!
Dude is literally describing my life right now.
And that's a great example, honestly. And I'm going to speak to this because this exact thing happened to me, just recently. And so, I mean, one of my big goals right now for 2021, over the last couple of years, I've done really well, for myself. I've done a lot of personal growth. I've dialed in on what I'm doing, got certain about who I am, who I'm hanging out with, what I'm building, what I'm creating, what the empire looks like. My biggest area for focus for this year is to attract the goddess to sit with me.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Like
Attract your queen,
right up
man.
there. That's what I'm doing this year.
Ladies, he's single. If you
And
like him, hit him up.
honestly, and I went on a couple dates with this girl. We got hooked up. We had a blast. And when you say, oh, we do that because the girl's boring, this chick was awesome. She was fun. She was funny. We hit it off. And then we went out a couple times and she was very into it. And I was excited. However, I knew that she wasn't the person that I was going to actually, commit to and build. And I knew that. And I'm
You were having fun for the
we're having
moment,
a great time, right? She was awesome. And I knew that if I continued to hang out with her, right, either I'm going to break her heart down the road, right? We're going to end up wasting each other's time, or, it'll end messy or bloody or whatever, right? And I recognize, oh, this girl actually is not the person that I want to choose to build a committed, dedicated relationship with.
So
I
out of
pulled the plug on
respect
it.
for her.
Out of respect for her. And honestly, at the time, she hasn't spoken to me since, right? And
It's hard,
at the time, because
right?
it feels like, oh, and rejection sucks, man. And from my perspective, I was doing the responsible thing, which was calling it when I knew that it didn't have the end result that I was looking for.
I want to interject really quick and say, rejection doesn't suck. Not for me. A lot of people it does. I know probably 99% of the population does. Rejection doesn't suck for me. Rejection gets me one step closer to where I'm going.
100%. And that's a really mature way to look at it. And honestly, boys, like we're doing this. This is the Alpha Project. We're doing this to get nitty gritty with this stuff, right? Devin gives great, philosophical monologues. However, this is what we're here for, right? So
It literally is the boots on the ground in the trenches, the real fight that we're all facing.
For sure. And so when I did this, I made the responsible decision, which I know, and I knew it was going to have a couple outcomes, right? She might not talk to me. She might get pissed off or, upset or whatever. I would probably, and did, feel shitty because I'm like, man, I recognize that I caused this girl pain, right? However,
Which
in
is very
causing
mature.
That pain, recognizing it and pulling the plug when I did, because the other alternative was riding it out or faking it or going along with it. And man, you're so right. You can wear a mask for 3 months. You can wear a mask for 6 months, right? At some point, I knew I was going to have that conversation. And for me, recognizing that what I'm looking to build, which is a true, intimate, connected relationship, I knew that I had to have that conversation at some point. So I'm like, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid now, because more time alone or more time given to find the right person, more time with the right person is worth more than, a easy way out.
Yeah. You know what? I just want to I just want to piggyback off that really quick, because there's a lot of guys, and we are speaking to guys right now, right? There's a lot of guys that will go through kind of maybe not that exact pain or that exact scenario, but there's going to be something in their life, in their past, or something that they're holding on to without making those mature decisions and saying, I'm moving on from this, which leads into alcoholism or drug abuse, or hurting yourself unknowingly, right? You're subconsciously hurting yourself, right? So you'll look for an escape somehow, whether that be you have a wife and you're cheating on your wife because you didn't have that conversation early on in the relationship, right? Or you're abusing drugs because you didn't deal with the time your dad beat you with a belt when you were 6, something, right? Every change that you're making for the better, there's always a trauma associated with the negative that you have to get past first, which is why I like what Devin was saying. If we cannot address the things that we need to address to make us feel level and whole, am I making sense right now? Then you're not going to be able to move forward into the positive life.
And that's your responsibility to take care of. It's nobody else's. You can blame other people. You could very easily say, oh, it was that chick's fault because, she just wasn't doing these things, this specific arbitrary criteria to meet my goddess image but that's your life. You get to choose who you want to spend your time with, as much as she gets to choose who she wants to spend her time with. And if you guys aren't actively recognizing that there isn't a mesh here, and you're lying about it to her, what happens down the road, 10 years down the line? She's been tricked into believing you're the love of her life, when in fact, like, the whole fucking 10 years you're like cheating on the side or talking to girls on Facebook and shit. Like, because you didn't have the balls to hurt her temporarily, you know what I mean? Like,
to be a big man, you didn't have the balls to be a man.
Balls to be man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just be responsible. And I love the be a man thing, but to the alpha identity, to just be responsible as a human being to another human being,
and chicks can
in
be alpha
service
too.
of.
Absolutely.
Right.
Chicks can be alpha.
Chicks can
100%.
totally be alpha too. We're speaking primarily to the dudes here. Chicks can be alpha. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you are a chick and you're watching this, the same thing applies. Don't string a guy
thank
along.
you if you're a chick for watching us. Thank you, because this is geared towards men. Right? Congratulations to you guys.
We're actively working to make sure that there are less creepy fucks out there. That's our goal. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, right?
That's a great goal. Man, that's a great goal. And so Parnell, you said something earlier, because you do very well at taking feedback and criticism, and you said rejection does not hurt you and phase you. So that's awesome. That's a responsible way to do it, because you can see the positives to it. You can see where the growth comes to from there, right? And then both of you guys were talking about what Devin kicked off when change starts. And I think the simplest way for me to think about that and process that is, I am never going to change unless the pain of staying where I'm at is greater than the positives from changing. As soon as the pain becomes greater than what the benefits are to changing, then you're
that's great. And I think Devin actually maybe it was Devin, maybe it was somebody else. Actually, I literally saw this on Facebook 3 hours ago. Somebody posted that exact quote, and I'm looking at it going, yeah, that's true. Like, I know social media's got everybody kind of in their feelings or doing whatever they're doing, right? Because we have really nothing else to do right now, right? So there's a lot of things happening within society now that I don't think were happening in the years prior. Whereas, people are connecting on social media and they're getting all the bad stuff and a little bit of the good, or they're getting all the good and a little bit of the bad. And they're not processing the information the way they should to make the positive changes within their life, because there's nothing else to focus on except social media. So they're on social media for 8 hours a day instead of going for that hour-long walk with your dog, or going ice skating, or whatever you're doing.
Well, having conversations with other human beings.
Man.
Right.
If you have a conversation in person, there's a lot more that I pick up on. When I say something and I very obviously off-put Parnell in saying something, I can tell. It's very clear that I can tell. Now, as a responsible human being, I'm going to interpret that information and I'm going to adapt accordingly. And I'm not a yes man. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Let me say the right thing so you like me. But I will adjust course and be like, I didn't mean to offend you. I'd like to continue the conversation in a different direction. And you don't get that same shit on social media. You get text, and then you put it in your own context.
Right.
You interpret it your own way, and then you spit back based on what your own paradigm is. And so if you're in a negative state of mind already and somebody says something that's very clearly kind, and this has happened to me a lot of times, somebody will post something complaining about a thing, and I only come from a place of good. Like, I really, honestly, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't feel good when I hurt somebody. It's not something that I'm actively trying to do. So when I see something negative on Facebook and I share a piece of information that I think may or may not help, whether or not it was solicited, I still, it always comes from that positive frame.
Right.
Now, on that other side, it's like, why are you criticizing me? Why are you telling me what to do? Go fuck yourself. And it
that
goes
right there-
completely off rails.
Right, and that right there is exactly what I was getting to when I first started. Is that, you know, off all the social media stuff, you can say you're going to change, but you're going to have feedback, and it's mostly going to be negative feedback on the social media stuff, right? You have to realize who to give your, or whose opinion to take and who's to just let fall by the side. And mostly it should be your opinion and not anybody else's, right? It shouldn't matter what anybody else says about you or thinks about you. If you believe you're doing the right thing, then carry on and do the right thing and see what happens with it, right? So many people will stop right in the middle of their change, their positive change, because their brother said something, or their sister said something, or one of their friends said something, right?
We talked about it in the last episode, your peer group holding you back in that space because they're testing whether or not that's the version of you that you want to be.
Right. I completely forgot about that conversation. And when you do that, like when you can finally say, I take my own opinions and hold them higher than everybody else's, you'll be so much better off because you can affect change so much easier with yourself. If I say to like for me personally, if I say to myself, I'm going to quit smoking, then I know it's going to be a struggle. I know there's going to be pain there. I know I'm probably not going to end up quitting smoking, but I have to try. I don't care what anybody else says about me, right? However, if I was on the opposite side and saying, I'm going to start smoking, there's going to be so much negative there, right? Yeah. But I'm still of the opinion of myself saying, you know what? I'm in the right. I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
Right? So even though it's the wrong situation, and that's why we go back to that accountability, responsibility, integrity that you hold, right? You have to realize which path is the right path and which path is not the right path. Starting smoking is probably not the right thing to do.
Right.
Quitting smoking is. But
because there's evidence that it's harmful to your...
But if you hold the opinion that your opinion is the correct one in this matter because it's your life, you're probably going to be correct 80 to 90% of the time. And yes, like I said, you're going to fail at some things, and you're going to fail at the things that probably you shouldn't achieve anyway.
Yeah, well, if you're not a smoker and then you start smoking and then all of a sudden you get cancer, like all of the evidence has shown, then you're the one that's at fault, and you're the one who has to take responsibility for that, and you're also the one that has to adapt and change
nobody else,
in the face of that
nobody
adversity that you face.
Nobody else that told you to stop smoking, and the people that told you to start smoking, either way, you know what I mean? Nobody else is accountable for that except you. So whatever change you make, you're accountable for that.
And I want to talk just quickly on this social media thing, because when you make change, you're bang on. When you make change, even positive change, you're going to take some criticism. You're going to field some shit. Every single change, positive, negative, every single time that I have made a decision to stop doing something or switch the way I'm doing it or start a new project, there is criticism. It comes with criticism, right? You do it, you learn to live with it, you learn to accept it, and then you ask yourself, is why I'm doing this more important than the mountains of shit that's going to come with it? Absolutely. On the social media thing, when is it fair to say that when you're looking at social media,
maybe,
and you know, you're talking about seeing negative stuff on social media, it's easy to say, oh, I saw this person's story, or I saw this picture, or I heard about this thing that happened, you know, in another country. My life isn't that bad. That's an excuse for me not to change.
You know what? A lot of people take that reference, and a lot of people go the opposite way.
Or they say, okay, you know what? I see these people, you know, these influencers partying and, you know, living on yachts and drinking champagne.
Why isn't my life like that?
Why isn't my life like that? Or I'm never going to get to that point. Now you're in that negative self-feedback loop. In my opinion, and I just put an end to it there, if I'm unhappy, even if I'm a little bit discontent, even if it's just a minor inconvenience, I have an opportunity to change that. Or I have an opportunity to live with it.
Here's the perfect way to practice. And this is what I found in my personal life, right? I fucking hate sitting in traffic. It drives me crazy. It drives me fucking nuts, right? One thing I started doing back in the summer, because I realized I don't have road rage. I'm not going to scream at somebody beside me, right? But I'm screaming to my windshield, right? If I'm sitting in traffic, I'll put on a tune I like. If it's summer, I'll roll down the windows. And I'll take a deep breath, couple deep breaths in and out, and try to relax first and say, what is so bad about this? what's going to happen if I weave in and out and drive crazy and get home 5 minutes quicker?
What's so bad
this
about
is so bad
This is
about
so
interesting.
sitting in traffic. And I get in my head in a positive way saying, the fuck's wrong with you? I'm literally checking myself. Right? I'm going, the fuck's wrong with you?
You're
Why are
telling
you
me
so
this
fucking
story,
angry?
and I'm picturing me in that situation. I'm like, man, the sun's shining, the
Yeah.
window's down, I'm listening to my favorite tune. I'm like, that sounds awesome.
The cute girl, in a fucking
awesome.
car beside you is parked right there, and she's smiling at you. What the fuck's wrong here? Cool, let's go. Like, I'm happy.
So your paradigm or your interpretation of the information that's around you is how you respond to it, and we've mentioned this a lot. You choose what response you have with it. Most of those responses, we don't even realize this, have just been programmed to exist that way.
Right.
And it's so funny. I didn't realize how bad my road rage was, and not that I have road rage or whatever, but to keep in the same thread, I didn't realize how bad my driver communication was until I started hearing the parrot in the back seat mimicking, "Why the fuck aren't we moving?" And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!"
I recognize that too. My son would do that as well.
So my child,
it.
I love this idea. I love this idea that your child is you times 10. And you take a look at the way you act, and your kids aren't going to do what you tell them to do.
They're going to do
what you are doing. And I had to presence myself to that very fucking quickly because I was making a lot of mistakes very early on. And I'll make mistakes for the rest of my fucking life. But I'm just saying, I've corrected a lot of the bad mistakes that I was making because the things that I wanted my son to do, I wasn't doing. And so having that magnifying glass on you when you deal with problems. And here's what's crazy about it. Okay, so have you ever fought with your girlfriend or a friend or a significant other, and then, after 2 minutes, you're still feeling some type of way, and you got to carry that out, and you, I don't know if you've ever caught yourself doing this, but you'll kind of be like neutral, but then you'll see that person or something, and then you just like, oh shit, ugh, and then you have to like readjust to being angry again. Have you ever encountered something like that?
Absolutely, and I think that's a normal thing until you learn how to properly communicate. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because we've brushed around this a little bit today. And I personally dislike having serious or intimate conversations over text. I dislike having real deep conversations on social media because what you find and what I found is that there's a disconnect in the way that we communicate a lot of times. Yeah. And what happens is we're so, as people, as adults, programmed in the way that how we're going to respond. When you're saying something, oftentimes I have a response thought up before you're even done talking. Yeah. Right? And how unhealthy is that?
It takes everything not to interject.
How unhealthy is that to say?
Me, just right now, me interjecting, right? For me not to interject somewhere is very difficult. I'm trying so hard in this podcast over the last 6 episodes to not interject.
You know what's really cool though? Parnell does another podcast, and the content in his other podcast has shifted a little bit since we started this, which is really cool.
It has, yeah.
And anyway, so there's a disconnect in the way that people communicate often, and that is to actually listen, and absorb all of the information that the person you're talking to is saying, right? So now, if I'm able to get into an argument with somebody, right? First of all, they're rarely arguments, right?
Because I don't have arguments with people anymore.
There's 2 different ways
almost
to do it.
never.
We can fight. We can get into an argument, or 99% of the time, we are pissed off about something. Yes, we might be arguing. However, I'm not mad at you. You're not mad at me. We are both mad at an issue. And if you can separate that, and we can say, okay, cool, like you're in a relationship or with your buddy or your parents or whoever, right? I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to say my piece. You're not allowed to fucking interrupt me. Okay. Then you get 2 minutes to say your piece. I'm not going to interrupt you.
Almost like a debate format.
Right, like a debate format. And then we can recognize, and it's so fucking healthy. Recently, when I've had disagreements with people, it is, okay, we're going to say our piece. We're going to actually listen, and then we'll actually respond. And 99% of the time, it's easy to say, okay, we're not actually at odds here. We are both at odds about this situation. How fucking healthy would that be in a marriage or a relationship to say, now instead of fighting with your spouse, we're on a team.
Well, now when I'm having conversations with other females or other guys or whatever else is going on, I'm very conscious about how I'm feeling towards the situation, how I'm feeling towards that person, what response or how they expect me to respond, and how I know I'm going to respond.
It's interesting that you take into account how they expect you to respond.
You have to, because if you there's certain personality traits people have, right? So if you ask me a question, and you expect me to have a soft undertone to the answer, and I come out and just start yelling at you, right? That's not conducive to a healthy conversation.
Right.
Right? However, if somebody is yelling at me and they expect me to yell back, I want them to stop yelling. So I'm gonna respond. I'm either gonna break their train of thought, or be really, really calm, and then they'll match my energy. Right?
Yeah, energy leading
You're
is
always
super
going to
important.
escalate, and
It's
if
always
one
gonna
person
escalate,
escalates
exactly.
and you escalate, it's not that you're matching them; you're doubling down.
Exactly.
See, I
I'm
would argue that
Yeah.
this is an alpha trait, is being able to recognize that you are in control of that energy in that conversation, and you get to direct it.
Absolutely.
As you get upset about something and elevate, if I maintain an even tempo, inevitably you come back down to match that even tempo.
I've
And this
taken
is this is called the mirroring effect,
Right.
Because we have a natural tendency to mirror each other.
That's
Have
how
you
you gain
ever
rapport
met
with
somebody
people
with
as well.
you met somebody with an accent, and then you're just like some part of you like
Oh.
secretly wants to do the accent too.
It's not even secretly.
And it's
Full,
not-
full-blown
yeah.
do it. Don't even notice it.
Yeah,
Right?
and you're not
Doing
doing it-
terribly. I'm
yeah. And it's not on purpose. You're not trying to hurt that person. It's an actual mechanism to help you blend so that you don't get
Because
hurt.
The
Listen,
human
people-
beings are uncomfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Listen, people. So there's two really huge types of people, right? People that love to be known and accepted and be the leader, and there's people that want to melt into the background, right? The people that need to feel accepted by individuals or by groups, they're the ones that want to be in the group, right? And then there's other people when you see like Genghis Khan, right? Genghis Khan was a leader because he knew what he wanted and he went after it, and people followed him. Right? Plain
Well,
and
if you
simple.
didn't
Whether
follow him, he was going to kill you.
Yeah, right, either right or wrong, however he did it, he led by, I'm going to conquer you, and if you don't follow me, then I'm going to kill you. Right? Terrible way to do it, but very accurate description on his personality traits.
Now get that is a form of modeling. He would not have been like that if there had not been a predecessor that he idolized and wanted to be like. But then you can't just be like, you must do better than.
Right.
Michael Jordan didn't want to beat his idol or want to be like his idol. He wanted to beat his idol and lived up to that because he worked that hard.
Yeah, did you ever watch the that new documentary?
Last Dance?
The Last
A
Dance.
fucking- what a beautiful piece of
The
art.
greatest line I've ever heard, right, was one of the reporters when they were playing the I think it was the Pistons, whoever they won the first championship with. One reporter said they're going to be out in 4, one said they're going to be out in 5, one said they're going to be out in 6, right? And Michael said, after winning game 4 and 5, he said, I took care of you last night, I'm going to take care of you tonight, and I'm going to take care of you tomorrow, to the 3 reporters that called him out and said he wouldn't do it.
Awesome.
And he went to hell with it. In 6, he won in 6.
Yeah.
And it was, he was like, that was the goal. As soon as I said that, it fueled the fire. I was almost devastated. I had no more energy. And as soon as I read those papers, man, I was back on it. And he emulated himself beating the reporters, not even the Pistons.
He gave himself a reason to work harder because he'd already beaten all of the arbitrary lines of accomplishment that he set out.
He was fighting. He didn't care who he was going against.
He
was
just
going
needed
to
somebody.
win.
He needed an opponent to go up against.
And that's
now,
that
if you're in
change.
that situation where you don't know, am I alpha or am I beta or whatever? Here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with being either one. You got to go back and analyze whether or not that's serving you, and is it getting you closer to your goals, and are you doing something meaningful with your life, and all this other shit. And then realize the only reason why you are where you are is because of your model. And the crazy thing is, it goes back to my kid sitting in the back of the car modeling me. He's trying to be me so that when he gets out into the world, he's armed. He sees me as the version of being armed to deal with the world. Although I still see myself as a 34-year-old, 14-year-old trapped in this fucking meat suit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
do you guys do this as well? 'Cause you know what's funny?
tell me you
fucking
don't
hilarious.
relate to that.
That's
tell me
hilarious.
you're not a 16-year-old
You know what's
portrait of
funny?
yourself.
I am. And you know what's funny? Actually, one point first. When I was 16, I was like, I can't wait to grow up. And now I'm 38, and I'm like, when do I grow up? Right? But
when does that happen?
do you guys find yourself doing this? I know I do. And you guys take this for however you want to take it. I find myself reaching back into the conversations we've had and modeling what you guys have done. Even though I know a whole bunch of things myself and I try to condition myself as well, I still find myself doing things or asking, what would these guys do in this situation? And I don't just use one person anymore. It's always 2, 3, or 4 people, right? To say
Because having a team is better than tackling shit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if I can model 2 people, like if there's 3 people in this group, and 2 people do one thing and one person is going to do the other, the 2 people in this group that I trust are probably going to do the right thing. The 2 people that make the same decision is probably the right decision.
Yeah.
So I'm going to model that.
So check this out. Go ahead.
Just real quick, and then we've talked about this a couple times before. Get good people in your circle.
All
Get
day,
good
every
people
day.
in your circle, because you don't. And this was funny. We had a staff meeting this morning, and
shit.
my business partner hit me with this, and I died. I laughed, and he's like, we're talking to the sales guys, and he's like, you are the experts here, right? You are the experts. People are coming here to get your advice, right? Don't fucking go to your plumber for legal advice. And I was like, oh, damn.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know who you're going to go to for legal advice?
Yeah, my lawyer.
Your lawyer. Yeah. Right. Wow, that's so simple, right?
But is he going to be good at
That's
fixing
so
a
simple.
sink?
Who are you going to go to
Probably
for
not.
investment advice? Probably somebody who's made
got
hundreds
money.
of thousands or millions of dollars investing.
Yeah.
Right? Not my brother who says, oh, that sounds risky.
And now, as you get older,
How does that make sense?
as you get older, you get to choose those
You
models.
do, and guess
right?
what? You get to meet more people, and this is where you say, there's nothing wrong with being, alpha, or if you like to take a back seat. Totally your call. Whatever you're comfortable with. I do challenge you though to step outside of your comfort zone, because your opportunities will exponentially grow.
And you'll never know if you want to be an alpha or if you can be.
And
a
you're not
successful
going to
alpha.
die.
Yes. If you never know if you're going to be that alpha or not, unless you step into that role and see if it's fit for you.
When I was a kid, man, I was
still a
I was
kid.
very passive. I was an angel as a kid. And then as a teenager, all I wanted to do was fit in. So I would do whatever I thought I needed to do to think that other people would think that I'm cool. And now I'm like, looking back, I'm like, fuck, that must have been exhausting.
Yeah.
Spending so much time and energy thinking about what other people wanted me to be like, or, like as a teenager growing up, like, what does this girl want me to be like? I'm like, fuck, like I can just be myself.
Yeah, it's weird.
Dude, it's so much easier.
You know what's funny is that a lot of people call that like the I don't give a fuck attitude, but it's really not that.
That's
It's a
such a
pessimistic way of saying it.
facade.
However, I don't give a
It's
fuck.
not
I'm
that.
me,
It's
and
me.
that's cool.
I'm just being authentic.
Yeah.
This is who I am. If I don't care about what you're talking about, I'm not going to engage that conversation. It's not that I don't give a fuck. It's that I don't give a fuck about that conversation.
True.
Now the key to this is, in the wise words of the prophet Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. So if you're in that
I just love Star Wars. I'm so down to quote Star Wars in every episode.
do or do not, there is no try. So
Okay, listen,
if you don't give a fuck, actually don't give a fuck. Don't pretend like you don't
And
give
then
a
get
fuck,
all
because you're
butthurt about it when nobody pays attention
hold
to
on,
you.
we're gonna
just
make a little
don't give a
contest of
fuck.
this.
Or do. And if you give a fuck, there's nothing wrong with that. Give all the fucks. If there's a fuck that you have to give it. And give it with meaning and purpose.
Don't act
and
super cool
intention.
and chill and pretend that you don't care. And when she doesn't pay attention to you because you didn't tell her you liked her, don't get
You
upset about
can't
it.
care about it anymore.
If you like her, tell her you like her.
Hold on, we gotta start a contest. Okay, this is their 6th episode, guys. Somebody tell me how many times we've mentioned Tony Robbins, and somebody tell me how many times we've referenced Star Wars, and we'll figure out a prize somewhere. Devin will go back and fucking figure
Bro,
it out.
new Star Wars coming out. Disney just signed a bunch of
Oh,
new
that's
Mandalorian.
amazing. I'm super stoked.
Mandalorian's dope.
Yeah.
Mandalorian's dope.
Please don't spoilers. I haven't watched it. I haven't finished it.
I'm
cannot
bad
get off
at
track.
actors' names. Who played Anakin in the I guess the middle trilogy?
He was a little kid.
I don't even remember.
No, who then turned into Darth Vader?
You're talking 1, 2, 3, or
One,
you're talking
two, three.
the
Phantom Menace.
kid
Clone Wars.
where he drove the speed racer.
Yeah,
was a kid then.
not the kid though. The dude who played Darth Vader.
Oh shit.
Yeah, no.
I can't remember.
Anyways, he's coming back to play Darth Vader again.
That's so exciting.
You're gonna cut all this out.
Yeah.
Actually, leave it in. Fuck it.
I'm down. Man, Star Wars is dope.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and
See,
that's
you
it.
can be a nerd and be
You
alpha
can
as
be
fuck. That's the
whatever
way it is.
you want to be.
You can be successful and still like Star Wars.
So I have a
encouraged.
question. I did want to go here, and I'm gonna do it anyways. So me and Steve, we have some history. I remember the last moments before we reconnected, and sitting in the room with you and those other 2 girls, and having the conversation that we had. And I remember it being one of the most challenging conversations I think I've ever had to have in a really long time. And when the conversation finished, I was completely beside myself. I had no idea what to do with myself. And the fucking wild thing was, I looked to you, and I saw how you were handling it. And in those exact moments, I'm like, just do what Steve's doing. and crazy, because I didn't want to turn it into a big negative thing. I knew in my heart and soul that although this may not be the opportunity where we work together and do something amazing, there could be the potential in the future, because again, to me, you were this super successful, and that hasn't changed. The past tense is not working here, but you're this super successful dude with all these really great accomplishments, and there was a lot of aspects of how you handle yourself in all things that I was like, this guy is cool. I want those pieces. And so in those moments when I was going through that shit, I was like, just do what Steve does and handle it. Take a deep breath. And as we were walking out, you said something to me that stuck with me long after that conversation. And I'm paraphrasing, forgive me if my memory's not serving me. It was something along the lines of, this might not be the right time. This might not be the right fit, but
we'll find something.
But we'll find something.
Yeah, because here's the thing.
And I was like, oh, okay. Oh. And this fucking overwhelming calm came over me, and you led the energy so elegantly. And as a compliment, I hope that serves, but as an illustration of facing an adversity. And to put it into context, it was something that meant a lot to me that I had lost control of. And as it kind of, went to the wayside, I was left, I don't know,
there was a void.
Yeah, I was left in this kind of void, like, well, fuck, now what? And so that's the ultimate adversity and the forcing of me having to overcome some kind of unpredictable change. And you led me through that in such an incredible way. And I'd love to just get your take on...
Take your compliment real quick. Respond.
How
I want to respond to this
how
as well.
that was for you on your side of things. As a leader and mentor, even though you didn't know you were, how was it on your side of things? Because I'd love to hear that.
Really quickly, actually one of the things that I've had to teach myself how to do over time is take feedback. And I'm using the word feedback because oftentimes feedback is assumed as negative, right? And that's it. And so, growing up, I would take feedback because I would do this thing where I would want to change how I was being because I thought other people wanted to be a certain way. And holy shit, it didn't work out, right? When I made the switch to be authentic and genuine, all of a sudden, doors opened, right? What I've had to also teach myself is how to take positive feedback, right? Because honestly,
isn't that tough?
It's really difficult, and I've learned that it puts me in the same kind of uncomfortable state of someone fucking laying into me and yelling at me, right? Because it's like, oh shit, well, wow, that feels really good. I don't know
what do I do with it?
How to respond to it. What do I do? Do we high five, right? Do I say thank you? And honestly, what I've learned is you sit there, you literally, you feel it. You feel it the exact same way that you would feel getting dumped. And you take the emotion and you feel it. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
You just absorb it.
You absorb it. And then it comes down to, and I'm going to get a bit vulnerable here. I've dealt, for my whole life with, I've always been a bit of a high achiever. I've always been able to do a little bit more than a lot of people. However, in my mind, I've always had that self-talk of, I'm not worthy.
I'm not enough.
I'm not enough.
That is a lot.
And so when a person, and when I'm in that state, or have long time felt that state, when I get, positive feedback or compliments, it's difficult to take sometimes, right?
You know what?
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I'm just going to just end it on when you said, when I led the energy, right? That is something where honestly, everybody can do it. It's so simple. You say, hey, like, I am here because this is the right thing to do. Same thing about the story before about this chick. This is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It might not be the easy thing to do, right?
Fuck, how I'm just
context,
imagining, dude. It was just such a brave.
The context is
thing to do.
I had hired Devin to do some podcasting, and it wasn't the right medium for what we were going for. So I had to let him go, right? And so breaking up with somebody, firing people, Having to have difficult conversations is never easy. However, I've learned that focusing on this is the right thing to do. It might not be the easy thing to do. However, this is the right thing to do.
Now listen, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
this
better.
is the second time you've referenced that. Whereas you're talking about your the girl you were seeing, and you said it wasn't the easiest thing to do, but it's the right thing to do, and you had to make that call and have that conversation with her. Again, with the conversation having to, I guess, quote unquote, fire Devin, right? It wasn't the easy thing to do, but it was the right thing to do, right? And I mean, if we look at that now, a year later, we're now working together again, right? There's always opportunity, right? I remember the phone call that happened right after that. Devin called me right after that meeting, and I expected him to be happy and jolly and say, hey, yeah, everything's good. We're going back in. I'll see you Saturday. Okay, that's what I was expecting, because the way he was framing it before everything was, oh, it's not that bad. Let's go on, I'll handle it. It's no big deal. That's kind of what he was expecting when he went in. And when I got the call of frustration from a guy like Devin is alarming, because Devin's never frustrated. Devin always takes in information, processes it, and relays it in a way that it's very understandable and very relatable. He's not frustrated about it, doesn't yell, doesn't scream. So when I got the call of the frustrated Devin, and then he started talking about not the other two that you guys were talking to, but about dealing with you. He said, you know what? The only good part about this, and I remember this very clear. He goes, the only good part about this whole thing that happened is, yes, we got fired, but I talked to Steve, and we will work together again in the future, just not on this. And it was a complete mind switch from the first 2 minutes of the conversation to him going through the whole meeting in his head, to the point where it's just not the right fit. And he got to that in his head. And I'm just realizing this now, is when he got to there, the whole meeting changed.
Thank you for being the springboard that I needed to help me get to that place.
Right? It was
because I remember how much emotion I was dealing with, and just kind of like, oh fuck, like what do I do with all of this? And to be the guy that I dumped that on, I can't even express how much I appreciate.
So I deal with negative criticism all the time, literally every day, hundreds of emails.
Yeah,
that's what I get, right? And it's usually because people are pissed off about something I said, right? Not anything I did, but something I said. And they're looking for whatever they're looking for, a reaction or whatever, right? And again, this is on my next podcast. I'm going to say this line again that we used last week, right? Losers focus on winners. Winners focus on winning, right? When you take that and if you think that you're a winner, how do you focus on winning? Well, you look at other winners who you perceive to be winners, right? And in those situations, you looked at that and you said, you know what? He's been in a lot more of these situations. He's a winner in these situations.
Yeah.
How do I become a winner in this situation too? And you completely reformed how you thought about it, which is very difficult for most people, right? That takes a big man to change like that, instantly recognizing it and then changing, right? Even when he said he was sitting there and he looked at you and said, what would Steve do in this situation, right? There's a lot of intuitiveness that goes into that. Recognizing when you need to change, how you need to change, and how you're going to get there.
For sure.
Right.
And I'm going to take that a little further. And I mean, after this conversation, it's really cool. So if it would not surprise you guys after knowing that about me and how I would handle these situations, from a personal standpoint, I have fantastic relationships, friendships, really good friendships with every single one of my important exes. And it's because, it's the same situation. When you are able to say, this is what is important, it might not be easy, this is what's important, then you're able to do what needs to get done. You're able to make the change. And when I said, you know what, this isn't the project, there will be something in the future, look where we are right now.
Yeah.
Right? That's fucking happening, right? Breaking up with previous exes.
Imagine if I had dealt with that any differently. Fuck you, Steve. This is fucking, you're idiots.
Absolutely.
You're all idiots. You know what I mean? Like, if I would have let my emotion take the best of me, imagine where this would have gone.
Absolutely, it would not have came here, right? However, when you take the lead, when I took the lead and said, okay, this is just not the time, not the project, right? It was able to get the what needed to get done, right?
Yeah.
Even though it was shitty.
Yeah, it wasn't a tough breakup anymore. At that time, it was amicable, and you're saying,
right.
You know what? Everybody stop screaming. Even if there was no screaming, everybody calm down. That was your energy saying, hey, listen, guys, it's just not a good fit. And you literally took
I can't even tell you how elegantly he handled it, man.
All the way
down. It was
down.
fucking just beautiful.
And that's what
poetic.
I mean, that's what people need to start doing, right? Is people need to, in my opinion, get out of their own fucking way and be humble and assertive. I know those seem sound like they
That
contradict
was
each
supposed to
other.
be our full conversation. Is get out of your own way
However,
this
get
week.
out of your own fucking way. Be assertive with what you need to get done, even when you take the criticism, when you take the feedback, when it gets shitty, when you don't want to do the thing, do the fucking thing.
Do it when it's most painful.
Brave.
Because, yes.
Get brave. Do the thing. Be assertive. And then the second component of it is, this is where leading with energy comes from. Have faith. Just fall into faith and trust that the
Believe
right
in
thing is
yourself.
going to happen.
And that's believing in yourself, right? And just what Devin was saying. If you don't have any confidence in yourself or your own decisions, you're never gonna be the person you want to be, or that people expect you to be, right?
Oh my God, that's
Especially
so
if you're in a position like all three of us are in, higher end roles in our companies. We have to be the leaders, right? We have a guest with us today. The same guest was with us last week, one of our employees. And he's always in on the conversation, but he's not in on the conversation. He's always reading what we're doing and then mimicking that for other outside interactions with other clients and shit like that, right? So if we're gonna sit here and scream at each other, that energy is gonna fall back onto somebody else. If we know ourselves and we have to be the leaders, we know we have to be the leaders, then we have to hold ourselves to a standard that we want everybody else around us to be. And if we're not holding ourselves to that standard and making ourselves accountable and being the leaders, the calm, directing who we need to direct, and realizing when change needs to happen, still being calm and being able to relay that to people.
Leading the energy.
It's not going to work, right? And because we're in much higher positions than most people, I'm assuming, a lot of people are trying to get there, but they don't know how to get there. And I think you touched on this a couple of episodes back when, if you want to be in a position where you're making more money, do more shit that you're not getting paid for.
And don't expect to get paid for it.
Right.
Just fucking do it.
Right.
Another really cool trick, for leading with energy is something, it's just a simple like breathing trick. And
yes.
Lots of very, very influential people do this all the time. If you're in a position of panic,
facing
you're
that challenge,
uncomfortable, or you're about to, you're a fucking Olympic snowboarder and you're about to drop into the half pipe, right? Taking that second, and I do this every single day, to just zone in on something. You just literally, you sit there or you're standing and it's 3 deep breaths, like into your belly, right? And it's just like, like deep breaths into your belly, and literally you can feel the world slow down. You can feel your heartbeat just like drop and slow down, and it's just like, you're dialed in.
Your mind
I'm
comes
focused.
back. You're able to focus on exactly what you need to dial in on, like you said.
Exactly.
And you're able to address the situation or the problem or the happiness or the cheers, whatever it is, much more.
And I dare people to go do this in a group of people. Like next time, when you're allowed to be out and having fun again and doing something social, do this when you're with a group, and you just do that, and you can feel the energy draw to you.
I'll go one step further. Listen, I'll go one step further. This is what I used to do to make myself comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Anytime I walked into a building, I had to get into the elevator. I would press the button, and I would walk straight into the elevator and not turn around. I would be staring at the back.
What the fuck?
Simply
Not serial killer like
Yeah,
that.
no, that's
and
not
here's
fucked
why.
up.
Here's why. Is because I had
That's
to
so
get,
out of the boundary
I had
of
to
socially accepted normal.
I had to get past, to become this personality that I needed to be. I wanted to get past the feeling of being shy or caring what anybody else thought of me, or the murmurs in the corner, right? This is why I'm able to deal with so much negativity now, is because I was able to deal with that little bullshit there, right? When it's in person, it's much more detrimental than on the internet. Who cares about the internet when I've done all this shit in person, right? You can make your mind or your body do a lot of things when your mind agrees to it, right?
Yeah.
So if you just make the decision to change, you can walk into that elevator and just stand there and look at the back and not give a shit what anybody else is saying or looking at or whatever what they're saying about you.
This is like a desensitization technique. You just get
when your floor dings, it says it. You don't have to look at that fucking thing at the number. It says your fucking floor. You get off.
Plus, the whole thing is probably mirrors. Okay, to wrap this up, there was one thing that was mentioned earlier, and I would really love to get your perspective on this. You said that you just fucking jump off the cliff. When there's a change that needs to be made, when there's a thing that needs to be done, you just jump off the fucking cliff and you get it done. However, there are other people who like to sit back and meticulously plan things and try to figure out all the little what ifs and details and all that shit. Better known as analysis paralysis.
Why would you do that?
What what did you do to overcome the analysis? Because I've been there. The analysis paralysis, that thing where you're just like circling the drain on this idea and you never actually pull the fucking plug and do it, where you just jump off with or without a fucking chute and hope for the best. So I love to get your perspective on
Don't
that.
go to your plumber for legal advice. That's it. I recognize this isn't serving me. Analysis paralysis, it comes to me when I am fielding too much information. If I'm talking to too many people who have different opinions about something. Honestly, you know how to make a decision? If it's a yes or no decision, right? One option, option A, option B, flip a coin. When it's in the air, you know what you want. You know how you want that coin to come up. Honestly, recognize what the issue is, get brave, do something. Do something different.
Do something
and
at
then
that moment.
Fall into trust that it's going to work out.
I'm going to actually answer that question as well, as it pertains to this podcast. We can agree that this is a pretty big production that we're doing here. We have big goals for this thing, and it's all worked out eventually, right? It works out in the wash. Now, I was approached by Steve to do this. We had, I think, 1 or 2 conversations. We met in person, had one conversation. We met with you. I said I wanted to bring Devin in. This night he said, yeah, let's do it. We had a conversation with you. And I think the next week we were rolling. I think
It didn't take much to get
between
it off the ground.
The difference between alpha and beta is knowing what you want, surrounding yourself with this like-minded individuals, and then just attacking, right? If one of us was like, if one of us had any concerns, okay, great, we'll address the concerns, but we'll address them when they come. If there's any, like, there's marketing and all this bullshit that has to go into this, right? Yeah, we'll address that when we get there. Yes, we have a plan for it, but we'll address that when we get there. So many people are paralyzed by going over so many details and the what ifs that they don't actually start. If you just start doing something, you're going to have more momentum than going through all the details and trying to work out everything. And if this goes wrong, how do I fix this? And if this goes wrong, I fix it this way. Don't do that. That situation may never occur. So why even think about it now? If it occurs, then you have to take the time and say, this happened, how do I fix it? But if it doesn't occur, there's no point
If you
addressing
create a need for something, and I'm going to tell you a
Yes.
story here. My brother just started a personal training company, and he came to me for advice. He was like, how do I get incorporated? How do I, what's a good place to get business cards from? How should I market myself? How should I do the logistics, nitty gritty stuff behind it? I've done this a couple times before. And my answer to him was go get 10 clients. And he's like, what? He's like, that's
Just
like,
do it.
what? Like that's not what I need right now. I'm like, go get 10 clients, right? Because if you have a business license, you have a numbered company, you have a bank account,
paying
you
out
have
your
all this shit set up,
nose.
you could have the coolest logo in the fucking world. If you don't have clients,
You have no money.
that's nothing. It's stuff that's sitting there. It has no tool. It's just like money. Money is not a thing to idolize or worship or bow down to. Money is nothing. Money is fucking
Money's
pieces
a
of
tool.
paper.
It's
an
Money's a
arbitrary
tool
measurement
to do
we
the things that you want to do, to
I
have what you
love
want to
that.
have. I can drive a sports car. I can go on a trip. I can drink a bottle of champagne. I can, do a lot of things with money. However, money by itself it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless until there's a value exchange. So for everyone listening, go get 10 clients. And then I told my brother, get 10 clients, and now you have an immediate need to have these things. Now you need to create things to facilitate, and that's gonna light a fire under your ass to go do the thing.
I like it. You know what's funny about that is that you and I had this exact same conversation, I think 3 weeks ago. We were talking about our media company and this and that. You know what? We're just like, you know what? Let's just fucking get the clients.
Yeah.
We've done all the back end. Let's just fucking get the clients. We're starving. What are we doing? Get the fucking clients. Let's get this going.
We got caught up in that analysis paralysis where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we served these group of clients and they got this far. And
I think
now what?
Yeah. And I think that change came when
right?
I was like, hey, I have this idea for this other thing. I'm going to do this too. Can we incorporate that? And then it turned to, well, we should just turn this model into
Yeah.
that model. And then it was a huge snowball effect, right?
Once you
That yes
start
and
doing,
effect.
once you start doing, and this is why I jump off the cliff right away.
Yeah.
Because once I start doing, either I recognize right away this isn't working, Or I say, this is working, however, I need to now do this, I need to do this, I need to find this person for this. Now the wheels are already turning though, and use the snowball effects. Like it's tough to get things going. Once you're rolling though, you are absolutely rolling. And when you have momentum, when you got Big Mo in your team, it's like you are rolling. There's nothing that will stop you. So my advice to everybody, when it comes to change, once you recognize there's something to be done, just go fucking do it. Do one thing right now, the smallest thing, right? I'm going to do this, right? Okay, I had an idea to go start a book. Go write one page.
And
Go write one page.
And if it doesn't work, try something else.
If you write one page and you're like, I guarantee you're gonna get psyched about it, you're gonna write a second page. And then you're gonna write a second page. And then you're gonna
be like, fuck, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. And that's cool. Good. Go do something else.
Now you know.
So what's
do something
crazy
else.
is you've made this paradigm where the pain of being stuck in analysis paralysis is greater than just jumping off the fucking cliff.
Yep.
So jumping off the cliff is easy for you versus staying there
and I've
trying to figure out whether or not you should jump off. I love that. It's such an agreeable symmetry.
Jumping off the cliff is scary. However, when you jump off the cliff a dozen times and I'm still breathing and I'm actually further ahead than where I was,
we've survived 100% of the days that we're still here. All the bad days that have happened, we've survived them.
I love that.
We're here. We've done it. Listen, guys, one last thing before we go. I'm going to ask you one question. I'll go first on this, and I want the same question from everybody, all right? So what did I learn from this conversation? What I learned from this conversation is model people that you want to emulate. Follow the steps. That's what a model is. If it's been done by one person, it can be done by another person. If you want to change, make a 10-degree shift, and it goes like this, and over time, that expands. That shift is going to be huge. That's what I learned. Steve, what'd you learn?
I learned, honestly, I learned a lot from Devin's story / compliment there. And I learned that, now recognize, I didn't even think about that honestly, when we started this project, I learned that by being responsible and getting brave and just doing the thing and doing it properly, I created an opportunity for myself a year later that I didn't even know was coming.
I like it. Devin, same question. What did you learn from this conversation about change?
I learned how important it is to be responsible for the decisions you make when you're faced with the challenge of changing, and that decision can shape the future that you have. And this is exactly that. I had a decision when we had that conversation.
Every decision will either open doors or close doors. And sometimes when doors close, new ones open, you just don't know where they're coming from yet.
I like it. Bunch of soliloquies and whatever we're calling this. Colloquialisms. Listen, guys, that's it. Fantastic episode. The bromance will continue on the next one. See ya.